Hello and welcome to From the Be All End, the Burnley podcast. I'm Andrew Greaves. Alongside me this episode, Paul Woodhouse in Cleveland, Ohio, and Chris Borden in Hapton, Lancashire. Lots to talk about. Burnley fell to a 1-0 defeat to Lazio in their final pre-season warm-up game, but plenty of positives, I think, to be taken from that, which we'll discuss. Woody donned his rather sexy Mark Zuckerberg gimp mask to experience it in full VR glory. So we'll find out how that went. It'd be interesting to see the viewing figures on that. We'll talk about the new third kit, which was kind of sneaked out almost without much fanfare pre-game and then a little bit after the game. So we'll talk about that. We'll talk about pies, just because we love talking about pies and the overall kind of catering stroke stadium situation from the game against Lazio. And then I thought we'd just end by having a bit of a discussion about personal trainers and this trend that footballers like to spend their summers not getting pissed in Iron Napa anymore, but going to various warm weather training camps. And that's in the news because Preston boss Paul Higginbotham not best pleased with one of these so-called social media personal trainers because of an injury to one of his players. So we'll perhaps round up with a chat about that. And then right at the end, stay tuned. I'm not going to give anything away. We've got a bit of a special announcement as well for all you From the Be All End fans. So let's start with Lazio versus Burnley. Burnley versus Lazio. A 1-0 defeat, Chris, but up until the wholesale changes, very, very encouraging performance, would you say?
Yeah, hugely. Again, he looked very secure at the back. I'm saying we've been sort of everything's been pointing towards maybe playing a back three over the course of the summer with the arrival of Kyle Walker, etc. But yet it's taken, at least publicly, till Saturday for us to see it in the flesh. And if this is the way he's going to go, or if it's just another card up his sleeve as such, then it was encouraging in that sense. Yeah, Ekdal was sort of like the spare man at the back, and given his very graceful football, adept at bringing the ball out. He was quite comfortable in that respect. Steve, again, as we basically say every time we watch him, could play with a bloody cigar on. He's just the most composed,
Superb, innit?
cultured, just outstanding. Yeah, yeah, and Kyle Walker's in there pinging crossfield balls, and I was just saying to Woody off air. Then I mean, Oliver's son played right wing back, and I said I thought he did all right, but he's got the easiest job in the world because he's got Kyle Walker covering for him. As a right centre back, and he's got Hannibal who's covering the bloody doing the jobs of two or three men with the work rate he puts in. But again, the only problem is actually with a string of chances, hit the woodwork three times. I think there was a terrific save first half. I thought Hannibal thought he'd scored, and but again we've got nil, and there's nil at Stoke, and with the sort of travails we had last season, especially in the first half of the season, it is a concern.
Yeah, I mean, Woody, that build-up play, probably, B plus, A minus, maybe even an A. Finishing off, final third, C minus, should do better, perhaps need to do better. Is it a worry a week out from Spurs? I know we've got Breuer to come in and Fleming. I saw Fleming before the game on Harry Potts Way. He wasn't limping, but he didn't look, he wasn't walking, he wasn't striding comfortably. Is it a worry a week out, especially given the fact that Scott Parker almost alluded to the fact that Breuer probably wouldn't feature against Spurs with his, we'll have to take a look at the new lads over the next couple of weeks. Is it a worry going into the Premiership season without really setting the world alight in pre-season?
It's pre-season, isn't it? You can't take too much. I mean, if we'd have spanked them, 4-1, we'd have all been getting overly excited, in the other direction. And it's looking at those kind of patterns of play and how we've set up. And I think, like you say, with the build-up piece, there were times when we looked exceptional, didn't we? There were some very fluid pressing going on. There were people dropping off, and I thought Hartman looked exceptional down the left, and the way everybody seemed to be joining up. There were some nice patterns of play, like I was saying. Yeah, it's a Scott Parker Burnley side, so we're always going to be slightly worried about our capability to finish. But you'd think that there are players to come in who, could do a slightly better job. But speaking of Son, it looks like, especially if we're going to play three at the back at some point, that people like Son, etc., are going to have to take on a little bit of added, responsibility in terms of finishing, because we know that from last season it wasn't necessarily our strong point, was it?
Yeah, and just picking up on Son, I mean, you mentioned him, Chris. I thought he had a mixed game. I thought he lacked a bit of concentration at times. Let the ball roll under his foot a couple of times. But it was interesting seeing Kyle Walker almost coaching him through that game, which is what you want, someone like Walker. But he was the man at the back post, wasn't he? 2 or 3 times when a ball came in looking for that header. I can't remember the last time we had a kind of flying wing back who would be in that position. And Hartman, again, I think on the left-hand side, especially first half, he was almost the man that was kind of popping up on the left-hand side of the box at that back post. I mean, that's an interesting dynamic, isn't it? It's probably different to what we saw under Scott Parker last year.
Well, yeah, I think we were ahead of the game. We're talking about having 2 out-and-out flyers in the fullback positions, expecting a back 4, but you've got this sort of interesting scenario where we've got sort of, like you say, Hartman on the left, who, as we sort of read up on it when he arrived from Feyenoord, he can underlap, he can overlap. He was giving us that width at times, and allowing Jadon Anthony to cut inside and have an impact off Foster, and again, he could have grabbed himself a goal or two, and just those worries again about his final finish, Jadon Anthony. But I just like it. It really fizzes those passes into feet with purpose, and I enjoyed an awful lot of what I saw from Hartman. He was aggressive, up and down. Set piece delivery was good, although again we didn't take advantage of it. He's going to be one of those players that he rattled umpteen Lazio players on the day. He's going to be a real fan favourite. Although I must say, I thought Lucas did ever so well when he came on last few minutes as well, and I think he can't be sort of ignored, or I think he's going to have to wait for his opportunity come the start of the season. Yeah, if you're going to play that sort of wing back system, you have to have that sort of attacking impetus from either one or both of these wing backs. Son can sort of stay at home if Hartman's the one that's going to be bombing on predominantly. But it worked quite well. You see, you got this, the metronome of Cullen in midfield, Hannibal. Who I'd have to see it again, but I was convinced he stamped on one of their players first half. He sort of had a bit of a look and sunk his studs into one of them, and it was one of those with the VAR. He might have found himself in a bit of trouble, but it was. I thought he was terrific yesterday, Hannibal, and he looks poised to certainly start the season and be one of our more effective players. Foster played well, held the ball up well, but again, is he going to score enough goals? I don't. His record suggests not, doesn't it?
Woody, just looking at that formation, I mean, I was sat there yesterday on the turf, and I really like the look of Lazio. I don't know much about Lazio. They kind of, didn't finish that high in the Serie A table. I think they were kind of 7th or 8th, maybe, a little bit lower than that last season. But what my thinking was, this is almost a kind of Scott Parker team that you'd probably expect us to play against, a side that feels like that Lazio team. So I'm thinking maybe your Brentfords, your Crystal Palaces, your West Hams, ones where they've got kind of fairly, good counter-attacking players. Do you think we'll see this as the kind of template for next season, this 3-5-2? Or do you think it is one of them where we'll dip in and out of different games and it'll be choosing the formation for the game?
It's a good question. I don't know. I think it's one of those that Scott Parker didn't seem to mess about too much with formations. last season, did he? It seems like if he's settled on it, but it seems like also it's a good option as a plan B or a plan C. So, and it does seem to play to some of the players' strengths that we've currently got. So it's that level of pragmatism again, isn't it? But a week out from the start of the season, you would think that it's very much top of his mind that he's going to be playing it at some point, don't you?
Definitely. We'll come on to VR in a second, but Chris, just a word on Max Weiss. Came on at half-time for Vladke. I don't think I've ever pronounced his name correctly, but there we go. Penalty save, which was superb. And overall, the young lad did well, didn't he? I mean, not a lot he could do with a goal on the break, but saved the penalty. One really good save second half. Were you impressed by Max Weiss and his showing, given the fact that he perhaps didn't have his best game against Stoke last week?
Yeah, again, given what he had to face, I mean, he's made a super save closer to his near post to turn an effort over. Little chance with the goal. The penalty was one of them where he's gone to his right, but he's had the presence of mind to to be able to volley away essentially the penalty that's gone straight down the middle, and he got some distance on that as well. So it's a real firm clearance. I mean, it's nice to see. It'll give the lad a whole load of confidence, and but you would imagine, like I said, I think we're all expecting Dubravka to be the first name on the team sheet, but it's it, who knows? We may well be surprised at Spurs next week. It's I don't think it's as set in stone as maybe we thought it was. I say the new lads, are they going to get some game time this week? Out of the three that signed last week, how many are going to start at Spurs? It really remains to be seen. But and again, he was intimating after the game that there might be two or three more new faces on top of that. So that's the excitement, is it? We're still, I mean, obviously going to be working until the end of the month, and it's this really frustrating aspect of the transfer window where your season starts and you're still not really settled in terms of the final squad that'll take you towards January.
Yeah, definitely. He did mention as well getting rid of quite a few, and I kind of certainly probably will see in this next kind of week or so a few of those players, perhaps Delquar, your Bensons, certainly your Cherlinoffs, you'd have thought, your Obafemis, moving on to pastures new. We've resisted long enough, Woody, but we're now interested to know what the VR experience was like. You're shaking your head. I think at one point you were saying in your left eye it was the VR experience, in your right eye it was the live football, and they were both going in opposite directions. I mean, how did you find it? Is it the future of football, and is it made for people like us?
It's not made for people like anybody. It was quite frankly bollocks. It really was. It was tech in search of a solution causing a problem. Imagine, if you will, you're plonked in a throne halfway up the James Hargreaves, and across the way, the Bob Lord has been taken over. It's turned into basically a football drive-through, and they've put a massive screen on the top of the Bob Lord stand that covers the entire top of the Bob Lord stand, and that's the normal Phil Bird stream. But the actual pitch level, they've got the VR players. We were playing left to right on the stream. On the pitch, they were playing right to left, which is the most disconcerted I've been watching a football game since I was on mushrooms watching Escape to Victory. That's all I can say. And and to couple that, the game on the actual pitch was a second or two in front of the Phil Bird stream. So we had that problem as well. And then Lazio players started disappearing progressively during the first half. So every time I did look down, I thought, oh, he's in there. But no, this invisible force just popped up from nowhere. And then second half, all the players disappeared, So take that as you will. It was a very difficult 90 minutes. Let's put it that way. Very difficult 90 minutes.
So, I mean, I'm just trying to get my head around this. So they're basically showing you, and I guess if we were doing it for Premier League games, you wouldn't necessarily have the live video because of the rights. I guess this because we were showing it on Twitter, which I presume is part of this deal we've signed with X. I should call it X to give it its proper name. Would it have been, I mean, obviously disappearing players notwithstanding, had you not had that kind of weird big screen experience, had it just been the kind of computer graphics, and that was the only way you could watch it, so I'm kind of putting lots of hypotheticals in the way.
Yeah.
Would it have been something which you would kind of go, you know what, if this is how I can watch it live, then it's got to be better than just keep refreshing live scores on your phone?
I mean, it's arguably slightly better than that. Don't get me wrong. The technology, the way in real time that you see the players in VR pinging the ball about is extremely lifelike, and you can see that there's an opportunity. For example, if you were watching the game as a stream, and then you say you wanted to watch a highlight, or you wanted to see how the penalty was going on, or you wanted to focus in on a particular passage of play, then just being able to zoom in and see what had happened, it'd be a very good usage of it as like a bit of a second screen experience. But VR is one of those isolating types of technologies, isn't it? When we're used to being in a WhatsApp group and you're used to having that second screen and you're used to conversing with other people, it's kind of not quite as social. And I know you can get WhatsApp on there and whatnot. I think with a few tweaks and it being an additional technology, it could be extremely useful for your viewing pleasure. But it's one of those things that if there's just a little tiny thing that's slightly off, it tends to ruin everything else. So it wasn't quite for prime time by any stretch.
Yeah. Two other questions that I had, and I've got many questions, but we'll keep it to two. Are you able to kind of turn your head? So if you turn to the left, you look towards. So it's happening. You're not. It's not like on FIFA or Pro Evo where the screen moves with you. You've got to be sat there in your cinema room, which looks very nice, by the way, in that rather sexy picture you've got on Twitter.
Yeah, anti-football's quite keen. Yeah,
you have to look at the Jimmy Mack stand, or I'm guessing it was the reverse for some reason. You have to look at the stand. If you look in the opposite direction, the action is still happening out of your eyesight. Is that correct?
No, whatever you're facing, you see. So when I turn round a full 180, I could see the back of the Jimmy Mack, which was just a load of like 2 centimetre, cardboard cutouts of fans from 1982 PlayStation or whatever, And so if you were further down the line, if you could like transport more lifelike type things going on, it'd be pretty good. But being sat on a throne and being able to like stand over and see my little funny legs in shorts and whatnot was slightly odd as well. Yeah,
excellent. And then my other question, which I am amazed by this technology, I have to say. So you mentioned the fact that it was the opposite way around. So as the stadium is built in the VR world, were we kicking towards the Jimmy Mack stand in the first half, as in a virtual version of the Jimmy Mack stand? Right. So they've got essentially got the teams on the wrong side of the pitch.
Yes. Yeah.
Interesting.
That's exactly it. And it's just one of those like minor oversights that just tends to spoil everything else. It won't, it's one of those that you're probably like kicking yourself if you're there, having created that as an experience, thinking, shit, why didn't we ask which way they'd be, kicking off, and why can we not switch it around and stuff like that? That just would have.
I'm amazed.
I'm selling a headset if anybody wants one. Yeah.
I'm amazed by the whole thing. I mean, I find VR really interesting, and I know Daz was saying they used it at Everton to sell premium experiences. Really, when they didn't have a stadium, they were doing all that, and the lads from Manchester. Rizal, I think it is, Andy Etchers and his partner down there. Clearly this technology is fantastic, as you've said. I am keen to give it a try, but I'm not sure I want to spunk whatever it is for a headset.
To be fair to them, though, there is their Premier League player app, which is a completely different experience, where you're actually there. It's infinitely more lifelike. You can actually play, keep you up, go through various training drills, and it's an entire game and experience, which I haven't played too extensively, and that's completely different to what was going on with regards to the stream, because that was very much about tracking players in real time, and in essence they'd probably say that worked quite well.
Yeah. Be interested to see the viewing figures on that, because I think, it's like with a lot of things, like, EVs and all this, like, the technology's there. How many people have the conduit to use that technology, i.e. the headsets, etc., etc. But one thing you would have missed out on is being able to catch Russell Ball pinging the new third shirt at half time into the stands, which again is, I mean, don't get me wrong, the club gave away quite a few of those new black shirts. I mean, Chris, the players were warming up in black shorts and socks, so we kind of had an inkling that's what it was going to be. There was no real announcement at the start. They just kind of came out in their kind of tracky tops, took them off, and then all of a sudden the LEDs around the screen, around the stadium started saying new third kit. It wasn't until half time that we started to kind of, see, or have this kind of, announcement that this was a third kit. Obviously, it was on the website, so a lot of people were checking, so maybe that's job done. What did you make of the third kit? I mean, I only saw the closer details this morning, and we'll perhaps go on to that, but it looked really nice and clean again, didn't it? It's another good kit for this season, I thought. What were your views, Chris?
Yeah. I've got to be honest. When they had the tracksuits on, and you could sort of see it was going to be some play on the sort of bees theme that had been mooted the night before. I was hoping it was going to be the yellow and black stripes that sort of thing that we wore understand that you can picture Jimmy Papadopoulos and Ian Cox running around in at Portman Road. I think we wore it at Ipswich one night out of memory. So disappointment aside that it wasn't yellow and black stripes, I thought it was it's really well done. It's really subtle. I like the honeycomb. I'd like the honeycomb thing to be a bit more, covering a bit more of the shirts.
Yeah,
Again, I'm just picking real minor holes because I think it's there's a lot of thought gone into that. Obviously, the same with the B. It's been on the previous club crest, etc. But I think it's really nice. It reminds me of that. Remember the Man City one, the black with a bit of yellow on. I think it's really classy. It's a nice addition to the blue away strip, which I think is almost universally approved. I saw that in the flesh for the first time yesterday and thought that was really nice in the club shop. And I think on the whole, I think we've got three solid choices there. There'll be a lot of people getting the lot if they've got lucky enough to have the spare cash to do so. But I think it's just pleasing to see when there's a bit of thought gone into things, and I quite like that.
Yeah, I mean, Woody, we take the piss quite a bit with the the AI generated descriptions that we use, but I mean, just to point on the blue away kit, I saw it on a lot of fans yesterday. I thought that is probably one of the best shirts, home, away, or third, that we've had in a long time. That looks mint. Like Chris says, the detail, it's not overbearing. I agree with Chris. It reminds me a little bit, if we're talking about Burnley shirts, of the Puma one where it was black with the silver honeycomb, slightly smaller design coming up to kind of just under the Lababet or whatever it was. I'd have probably, like Chris, wanted a bit more of that honeycomb design, but it is a really nice kit. And again, the Dude Perfect sponsor, I wish I could get an adult one with the Dude Perfect, because I think, again, the Dude Perfect looks fantastic in that gold. Are you a fan? Are you tempted to get one shipped out to Cleveland?
Me and Sam were talking about it. We may do. We may even shove the soccer business on it, seeing it's our colour scheme as well. So, might as well hop, skip and a jump on that one. But no, it is a classy little kit. I always like black kits, and I think this one, I like the understated yellow, because you've got to be careful not to look like an humbug, haven't you? You've got to be careful not to overdo it on the B front. And I think these are arguably three of the more solid kit sets as a set we've had for quite a while. I think there isn't really a stinker amongst them, is there? They're all a solid set of kits. So fair play to them.
Yeah, definitely.
And picking holes in them, you'd be able to do it with Castore. Yeah,
just waiting for this warm up shirt, which I think is the real jewel in the crown. A lot of people, again, if you can't afford the whatever 60 odd quid it is for a first team replica shirt, a lot of people are turning towards the training shirts up and down the country. The sort of freedom of design where people can be a bit more adventurous and a bit more out there. and the training shirts are almost where it's at, really. So I await those in the club shop with bated breath. Yeah.
Yeah, that warm-up shirt that they've been wearing throughout pre-season with the kind of dark blue and dark claret pattern and things like that. I think the last few training shirts actually have been decent. Like you say, Chris, a slightly cheaper alternative to the actual kits, which are getting more and more expensive. Something else that's getting more and more expensive. Look at that for a link. Catering options on the ground. It was obviously the first time we were back at Turf Moor since the end of last season. Pleased to report that the pies are now Hafner's pies, which just absolutely fills me with joy. What doesn't fill me with joy is having to queue up for a hell of a long time just to secure one. I think, we talk about the importance of pre-season for getting us fitness back and the players getting ready. I think one or two of the new signings on the catering side of things perhaps could do with a little bit more practice at pulling pints. You might remember the old, was it Melanie Griffiths, the old, do you want a flake in that Love Bodies advert? There was quite a lot of foam.
Yeah.
Quite a lot of foam going into those pint glasses.
Melanie Griffiths.
Not Melanie Griffiths. What was she called?
Melanie Sykes.
Melanie Sykes. There you go. Not Melanie Griffiths. There you go. But yeah, I mean, obviously there's a big thread on Up the Clarets about some of the pies being burnt and the queue. I mean, the queues were horrific. And, I put some of that down to the fact that in the James Hargreaves Upper, not all of the concession stands were open. A few grumbles about the price. I think the pints are up to about $6.20 now. The beer selection has moved on from San Miguel to Estrella, so probably a bit of a plus point there.
A Peretti on in the fan zone as well.
Peretti as well, yeah. And they've got Wainwrights.
And pour your own Guinness.
Have you pour your own? Oh, you get the cans Guinness.
In the fan zone, they had a pour your own Guinness stand.
Wow.
I didn't sort of have a closer look, to be honest, but it looked like it was one of those you could pour your own and you to take it to the stand or whatever and declare you paid for it, etc. You'd be paying half the price in the bars on Harry Potter's Way, wouldn't you? Once you're a captive audience member in there, it is what it is. But my every time I take my eldest one, he inhales one of the the rollover type hot dogs, and absolutely he lives for those. So he was delighted to see they were still available and wolf that before the game. So he no complaints on that front.
Yeah, hopefully when we kick off against Sunderland in a couple of weeks, that queuing situation will be sorted. But I think the fact that the pies are now Hafner's, and you get a good pie. And I have to say, the pie was decent. I think he's very good. So, but yeah, like you say, much cheaper to buy your beer elsewhere. Plenty of very nice places across Burnley where you can get a pre-match pint for half what you can on the turf. But there we go. Just to wrap up, I just wanted to kind of touch on this because I know we do stray into other areas, and there is a Burnley link to what we're talking about, but. Paul Higginbotham kind of a little bit miffed in his press conference afterwards because of an injury to one of his players who'd been working with one of these many kind of personal trainers that are on social media. He named him, which I thought was a bit unfair, really. I think, you're on a bit of slightly, I'm not quite sure where that stands up, but we won't name him. But he's somebody who's worked with Josh Brownhill over the summer. I've seen Brownie working with him quite a bit on some of the videos. And Armando Breuer as well was working with him kind of slightly earlier. Now, Higginbotham was basically saying, it's a bit of a pain in the arse. We've got this player who's injured, Jebberson's injured. They charge this money, they get the hits on social media. We don't get any money. Woody, where do you stand on players using personal trainers? Because again, gone are the days, I guess, when players would just, get fat over summer and then fear the pinch test when they came in for the first day of pre-season. Someone like Josh Brownhill looks to have spent most of the summer moving from exotic location to exotic location, spending his days basically training. What's your view on the use of personal trainers?
Well, what do you think? It's the first time I've thought about one this summer, let's put it that way. But it's like, I don't know. Is he saying that they should only have like club sanctioned personal trainers or not personal trainers at all? Or what's he suggesting? I don't know what his beef is. He said it was an accident. So What's his problem? That the club should be basically saying, yeah, this is okay or whatever. It seems a funny thing. It seems like he's just miffed and taking it out on somebody, which I get, I understand, but it's not the problem of personal trainers, is it? Anybody can fall over a coffee table or whatever it is he's done, or so
dropped a jar of
mayonnaise.
exactly, run into an ironing board, whatever it may be. Yeah.
I mean, it's a fair point, Chris, isn't it? I mean, if you think about, I always think about that summer when Kieran Trippier just looked to be on holiday after holiday after holiday, and
because he was,
because he was, and I know, Sean Dyche, took him to one side and basically said, don't waste your career, put your chippy tits away and work hard. we want players to be ready, don't we? And then we kind of like. Then whinging that players have gone above and beyond and, perhaps had an accident in a gym or turned an ankle while they're doing some of these drills. It just feels slightly odd excuse for Higginbottom to use, doesn't it?
Well, do you want them, like I said, back in the old days, to like have a bit of a run round the estate that they live on night before they return to training? Or do you want them to be diligent and disciplined and actually, well, not just do the programme that they've been given, but go over and beyond? I mean, I can remember doing a piece with Brownie's agent, who did share the same agent as Daniel Jebison. I don't know if that's still the case. Regularly Brownie would go on a sort of pre-season training camp and get yourself in the best possible physical shape. And you can see that. I mean, the game's changed beyond belief, haven't you? I can remember Adrian Heath sort of raving about Andy Cook's physique if you go back 30 years. And Cookie was, built like a brick outhouse. He said, well, once when you lost the baggy shirt, I mean, in this day and age, you'd be able to see he was built. Back then it was just you couldn't tell what was under. He's got a double XL Adidas parachute on him, basically. That was, players were fit, but Cookie was almost like an outlier at the time. Now they are all. You look at them; there's not an ounce of fat on them. Is it? You look at even the ladies. The women's team that won the Euros a couple of weeks ago. You see them all sort of, I think, on holiday or celebrating in the dressing room afterwards, and there's no body fat at all there, is there? It's ridiculous. He's had an accident. He's had an accident. It is what it is. But I said, do you want him absolutely ready to roll as a physical specimen, or do you want him given another program? It's going to be another month before he gets up to physical speed, sort of thing. It's a nonsense. But I must say, so on the Brownie issue, and I know he's not our player anymore, and it's entirely up to him what his next move is. But I'm absolutely puzzled what's going on there. It's the EFL season started, the Premier League season's. Well, it starts on Friday night. He's not got a club. So has he got offers? I mean, Burnley offered him something. So he's either got an offer from Burnley and nothing else, or he's sort of playing it by ear and hoping. So, as the clubs work down their short lists and they lose out on players, and maybe we'll keep Brownie in mind because he's a Freeman's sort of thing. But he's going to have to be careful because he could end up with absolutely nothing, or end up having to go somewhere because it's the deadline's gone and you're going to have to take what's coming to you. Otherwise, you're going to not get a game until January.
Depends where he's shopping, doesn't it? If we could work out which shops he was in front of, we'd have some sense as to which cities he was at, and it would be, who we might be talking to. But
yeah, it is a strange one.
It's a weird one. It is.
Yeah. There's a picture of Jamie Vardy. It looked to be at Sunderland. There seemed to be a Sunderland crest on a kind of electronic advertising board behind him. And you kind of think, he's getting fixed up. It looks like Calvert-Lewin's getting himself fixed up. Wilson joining West Ham. These players, they're hawking themselves around clubs, aren't they? And you just wonder whether, maybe Josh has got something in America, perhaps, or But you're kind of thinking the longer it goes on, Scotland and England become less of an option, don't they? I mean,
Yeah. Well, say
it's a weird
Tyrese
one.
Dolan was one. I mean, obviously
Yeah.
he's not Tyrese Dolan. I don't think I'm being sort of out of order by suggesting he wouldn't be good enough for us. But the amusing thing, I read an interview. He's obviously signed for Espanyol, who we now have a close tie with, and he was almost having to sort of say to Blackburn fans, like, "Well, I knew nothing about this tie-in with Burnley when I signed for him, because I think they sort of thought that he was going to go to Espanyol to be loaned to us in a rather
Yeah.
roundabout way of us taking him off their hands, but." Yeah, like I say, he left himself a good while, but he's got sorted out with a terrific move on paper. So I don't know. I just find it bizarre that he hasn't. He looks to me again. He posted something on Instagram. He looks to me again sunning himself on holiday when really he should be, putting
On
the
doors.
finishing touch, putting the finishing touches to be getting ready to kick off the season somewhere.
Yeah, definitely. Just talking about that lot down the road, just to end, we always like to end on a positive. They got beat 1-0 yesterday at West Brom, which was one of the loudest cheers inside the ground yesterday as the announcer announced that at both half-time and
Yeah,
full-time.
they've now lost. They've now lost 50% of the games we lost last season.
Very true. That's a really good point, isn't it? They won't be winning
And
the
they
league
play,
in August like they usually do.
and Birmingham's next up, I believe. So good
Oh,
luck to them.
excellent.
Yeah, man, that
Definitely.
gap, fellas. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Well, we've got less than a week to wait now until the Clarets are back in action. Clarets back on Saturday at Spurs. To prepare for that and for us to give you a glimpse at how our pre-season training has gone, we are going to do a special live episode. It's not going to be in VR. You are going to have to look at our actual ugly mugs if you do choose to tune in. We'll have more details on social media, but there will be a chance for you to send in questions in advance or join the conversation on YouTube. But a little date in your diary. I think we're looking at 8 o'clock on Thursday this week, kind of a pre-Premier League kickoff live show. I think most of the pod squad will be in attendance. I know Justin's away. I know a lot of people getting ready to see Mr. Connolly again, but he's away this week. But certainly we'll probably have Daz and Simon with us as well. So a fuller pod squad for a special live episode. Keep your eye on social media at BO Podcast for the details of that, but looking like Thursday at 8 o'clock. Will, of course, be available as a downloadable podcast on Friday as well if you can't make it. But until then, enjoy the week and up the Clarets.
Do you want a flake in that, love?
Ta.